The ultimate Vanguard digital experience. Or is it now? Vanguard Deer Days at the time of uploading this video is most likely coming out less than 24 hours away, which is pretty insane to think about, and it's a game that kind of started off on a very big hype in terms of it being announced, and has been slowly going down and plateauing at an interesting level. Now, Vanguard Deer Days, for those of you that don't know yet, is a console as well as Steam game for the Vanguard TCG that is releasing for the first time ever in English. We've had Vanguard EX, Ride to Victory, Strike to Victory, Lock on Victory, all those things in the past, but those were all 3DS and Switch titles and PS4 titles that have only been released in Japanese. The developers of those games are Furyu, and they are also the developers of Deer Days as well, and they basically are story-based games that usually have an online component, but they were very much unfleshed out in the past, which hopefully this time it is a bit more fleshed out. Now, a lot of people were very excited because finally we're getting an online way to play Vanguard officially, and it isn't just Cardfight Area or Cardfight Online, which, didn't actually go that well, and not Vanguard Zero either, because Vanguard Zero has been shown to be pretty popular in English. It had a very convenient release timing, it wasn't competing with any other games, and it was like at the very start of the pandemic when nobody had anything to do. However, there are a few reasons why the hype for the game has been sort of in a weird state in these last few weeks. Even before this, the release timing for the game was weird already, because this game is coming out a day before Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which are looking to be the most ambitious main title Pokemon games ever. I mean, honestly, since like Black and White, basically. And in case you couldn't tell, a lot of us Vanguard players are also Pokemon fans and grew up with the series, and so of course it's even a clash of interest for us. But the problem is that this is a game that's coming out the same week and the day before a game with arguably one of the highest marketing budgets. Like, I live in Japan here, and just walking around Shinjuku today, I saw like a bajillion different Pokemon ads. There was the whole station was decked out in Pokemon, and it's just like, that's the scale that we're competing with. They also quickly announced that there's no crossplay between Steam and Switch. So that means you have to kind of commit to buying one of the versions which your friends will be playing more, or your favorite content creator will be playing, or the general demographic of your community is going to be playing, which it seems to be like Steam will be more so the version that the English player base will be playing more, and then the Switch is going to be the one that the Japanese player base will be playing more, because Japan is getting a physical release of the game with promos, and English does not seem to be, and therefore in Japan, even if you're not interested in the game, you'll still buy it for the promos because you want to get your cool bling cards that, you can get in other ways, but obviously you want them. But in English, you don't get that unless you buy a Japanese copy of the game, get Japanese promos, but then you play the game in English because it has that option. So those two things were already a little bit like, oh, I don't know about this, but I'm still really excited about Deer Days, so it should be fine. Then I saw a really good thing coming up, which was that they showed regional pricing. So the game had regional pricing, and what that means is that basically when a game comes out and it's available worldwide, they basically price it in ways that are accessible for people in different countries. So for example, for countries that have a lower GDP, or games just aren't as affordable for the normal price that they go for in, let's say, North America or Europe, they would be cheaper in order to match the market that is available to them locally. And I can show you exactly what I mean by this right here, where you can see that in places like Colombia, the game is not even $20. So it's very, very cheap. In Brazil, it's the equivalent of 25. In Chile, it's 27. In Peru, it's 30, etc. So as you can see, in multitude of the South America countries, it is a lot more available and much cheaper to get. But as you go further west and further up, you notice that the price is a lot more the average Switch game price, right? It's basically like most Switch games kind of go for this kind of like $58, $60-ish, and as you can see, basically all of Europe, and here's my country, Luxembourg, is in this price range. And then you take a look at the United States, $69.99, and for some reason, Argentina is $100. And so this is where the problem came from, because we were pretty excited about regional pricing because, oh, that's great, people that normally can't even buy the product to play the physical card game can now afford to play the game pretty cheap. I mean, it's like $20, which to us is pretty cool, and to people there, it's also a lot more affordable than if it was $60 or $50. But then, this is where we found out the actual price of the game. For some reason, everywhere in the world, but United States and Canada to an extent, and I guess Argentina, the game is relatively standard. A little bit expensive for a trading card game video game, but even then it was relatively standard, except for the US where it is $70. And apparently this is the first ever game where the base price of it, not like some extra deluxe edition, DLC edition, the available price of the game is $70. The first ever Switch game. Now, I held off on making a video about this price for quite some time because I was waiting on a couple of things. One, I wanted to see the Steam prices come out, which they still have not at the time of making this video, and the game is literally about to release. And two, I wanted to see what the DLC prices would be like, because I thought that that might either be really good or really bad, and sadly we're here. A lot of people expected the DLC price to be somewhere in like the $20, $30 range, because when we think of available DLC to games, usually it's around that much. Like, one of my favorite games this year has been Xenoblade 3. Xenoblade 3 charges, I think, $30 for its DLC, with like a huge story expansion and stuff like that that comes out over time, and it kind of like drip feeds you content. I'm a big fighting game player. Fighting games usually come out with like a $60 price tag for the base game, and then you have your starting roster, and then they do season passes and stuff like that, where you get, let's say, like 4 to 5 characters per season pass for usually about like $20 or so. And so obviously, if you have like 4 season passes, that's an extra $80. It adds up quite a bit, but each season pass being about 20 isn't too bad. I mean, that's kind of like the standard that people are used to, and generally speaking, with fighting games, you get new characters with new animations, new voice lines, new like toolkit, new meta, everything is shaken up. It's really, really cool, and a lot of effort for the developers to make it as well. Some of us had hoped it'd be even less than the $20 range, because it's like, well, it's a card game update, right? You just have to patch in the cards. Obviously, for stuff like the Chronojet deck set, you have to patch in Stride, that is an entirely different mechanic, but for a lot of these update sets, it shouldn't be that much, right? We look at things like the Link Evolution, the Duelist, Legacy of the Duelist Yu-Gi-Oh game, that actually added a DLC for free where they just patched in a bunch of cards and updated like a bunch of rule sets and stuff like that, and that was free. And if you look at a bunch of other DLCs for other digital card games, it's usually free as well, for those that are console games. We're not talking about like Shadowverse, Runeterra, etc. But that does not fly with Furio games. And this is the problem, because a lot of us were really hoping, myself included, that Dear Days would mark the beginning of another huge uptick of players in the community. A lot of us were thinking, all right, Dear Days will come out, it's going to be so easy for people to get into Vanguard, it's going to be so easy to recommend the game to them, they can just learn the game through the tutorial, and you know, if Dear Days is like $40, because that's usually how much like card game video games are, it's going to be great, it's going to be easy to recommend. Obviously, if it was free with like a live service model, it'd be cooler, but a lot of us like to just buy a game and have it forever, so that's also pretty nice. But telling somebody, let's say, that lives in the States, which is a very big market, right? In Europe, it's a bit easier to say like, hey, this game is $58. It's actually kind of okay. Like, that's if anything, it's actually cheaper than Pokemon. But in the US, this game costs more than Pokemon, the game coming out the day after, and the game that everyone wants to play. New players will not want to spend $70 in the United States, and even in Japan, the game's like 7,600 yen, which, like, how is Splatoon under 5,000 yen? Splatoon 3 just came out this year. It's the biggest video game release of all time. It's under 5,000 yen, and you are selling this for 7,500? I understand Xenoblade 3 charging me that much, because that game is like over 100 hours of playtime with an insane story, insane soundtrack, and so much love and care put into the game. But a TCG video game? Really? And the thing is, new players aren't going to be wanting to spend that $70, or they're not going to be going through hoops in order to buy the game for $20 from like a Colombian eShop or a Brazilian eShop. If you want to, you can. There's a lot of videos that cover how to do that. You can just search them up. I think there's even some of us like Meloa and Matt that made a video on how to get the game from the Brazilian eShop as well if you want to get it for cheap. But new players will see this like big price tag and go like, oh, I'm not spending that. I will just go play Pokemon instead or something else. ZRG has a really good video about the price point as well that I recommend you check out, because he compares it to a lot of other Switch games and AAA titles, or, you know, big like games from the PS4 or PS5 like Persona 5 Royal that now are on the Switch for a much more affordable price, and, you know, it's like a good bang for your buck. And he was the one that actually made me realize this is the first like base price $70 game on the Switch. We still don't know what the Steam price is going to be either, and a lot of us are just kind of praying for regional pricing right now. And now the DLC is just straight up not worth it. Like, for those of you that don't know yet, the DLC is worth $70. It is worth the same amount as the base game in whichever region you decide to buy it. So if you buy it from the Brazilian eShop, you're paying like the, what, 25 or something that it is, or 30? But if you're buying it from the American eShop, well, then you're paying another $70 for the DLC, and let me show you what the DLC is. The DLC is this. It is an additional card pass that is worth 7,700 yen here in Japan, which is actually more than the game itself. The game is worth 7,600, so it's actually a bit more. You can see it right down here. And this includes the expansion packs for Set 6, Lyrical Set 3, Set 7, and the Chronojet Stride deck set. And the thing is that it's like, okay, cool, well, if I pay this DLC price and I get like the cards immediately, that's great. No. you actually don't. You also get some bunch of sleeves, right? You get a bunch of these like sleeves that you get for the characters and all this stuff. The problem is that these will also release at later times. The Set 6 update will only be out at the start of February, the Lyrical Set 3 update is only out at the end of March, then the Set 7 update is only out on June 1st, and the Chronojet deck set is only out at the end of June. This is 3 months after the English release, and this is over half a year of delay for the Japanese version. Now, obviously, these weren't going to be out immediately. I think so, at least, because obviously Bushiroad wants to profit from the physical cards first that they're printing, and they don't want to risk, lowering sales for that. So obviously there has to be a bit of a gap between the English release as well as when it comes out in Deer Days. But February? Really? Could we not have this like December instead? I mean, Set 6 has already been out for a month by then, over a month if anything. Surely that's enough to have profited from your early sales, right? And from what I've heard, Set 6 is having like a second printing in English too, so clearly it's selling pretty well. And the problem is that if you want to buy each of these separately, you're paying like 20 bucks as well, so it is just crazy. The only thing you get from actually buying the DLC like today is sleeves. And so there's really no point to buy the DLC early because the contents of it aren't available until February, so I personally am not going to touch it. I'm just going to hope that the price decreases because 7,700 yen or $70 is just not worth it. Like, this just does not make sense. Again, I'm going to say this as well, do not bother buying the DLC for now because most of it is not available until February. Wait and hope for a potential decrease in price. Especially in the Steam version, I feel like that's where a lot of the sales will be at. But now I want to also take a moment and compare what Deer Days is to other console video games on the Switch and see what the rough price point is and how DLCs look. So here we are with Vanguard, so Deer Days of course is available, and EX, you will never buy the game for this much anymore. It is available for much cheaper if you buy it online physically at this point, so it is quite a bit of a ripoff to get the whole thing. They have a digital deluxe for like an extra 4K yen at this point. It's pretty crazy, but you can basically see here, you can also buy sleeves, you can buy the character DLC for Aichi, Kai, and Ren, and a bunch of like these like rare card sets, so you basically just get like SPs, I guess, by just like buying the DLCs for 1,000 yen each, so like 10 bucks each. The thing is that you can get these in-game by just opening packs, so there's literally no worth in doing this, and they did this for EX as well, so it's honestly not worth it at all. But you can kind of see here, like, they did the DLC thing for EX as well, but just for like these like clan playsets and sleeves, so it wasn't anything of like crazy value. Also, I wanted to mention that you can actually buy the game in Japanese on the Japanese eShop, and you'll be paying about this much instead. So it's even still less. Like, it doesn't make sense in any conversion why the game should be more than 60 bucks because it just does not convert to that much from yen to dollars. You can even buy the physical edition of the Japanese copy from Play Asia for this price, which is still going to be saving you a bit. I can switch the currency here to dollars. So it's $47 to buy the physical version of the game to get yourself some promos, which aren't Japanese sadly, but the game itself, once you actually put it into your Switch, will be in English if your Switch is in English. Like, that's how I buy games here as well. I buy Japanese physical copies, but they're in English for me because my system is in English. So you can do that technically too, like it will still be cheaper. Now let's take a look at Shadowverse Champions Battle. This is a game that came out a little bit ago. So this game was worth about the same, 6,500, no, it was worth 1,000 yen less, 6,500 yen. It now has a complete edition for 2,500 yen, so 20 bucks, and this game was made by Side Games themselves in-house, and of course it does have some DLCs as well. These DLCs can basically have like leader skins that you pay like 5 to 2 bucks for, basically, so you have a bunch of leader skins, and then you have a bunch of like extra card DLC as well, but on average, it's like $8, $10, nothing that is breaking that $70 mark or anything like that. So you can see that the prices are pretty understandable. Here, even this like premium pass DLC is like, what, 25 bucks at most? So even then, it's DLC, but it's a lot more of the typically expected price for DLC. Here we have the Yu-Gi-Oh tab on the Nintendo Switch store, and you can see, of course, Master Duel is free. Legacy of the Duelist is pretty cheap, and I mean, with the quality of the game, I wouldn't pay more than 30 bucks for it. And of course, it doesn't have any DLC, like they did a DLC update, but everything was free. And then you have the Rush Duel games, where this one is available for free for like a basic version of the game, and then if you pay full price, like 45 bucks or something for it, you will then be able to like play online and all that kind of stuff extra. And then there's another Rush Duel game that I think this one's out in English, which, I mean, this one is worth like, what, 50 bucks, I guess? And I mean, That's a bit more understandable for a card game, and this is the only way to play Rush Duel in English too, so again, this is a more normal price, a more expected price as well. And I think this one did have downloadable contents as well. We can take a look at here. They do have a couple DLC packs for the game too. I don't know if they display the price though. Yeah, so it looks like you have some of the decks that you can buy for, yeah, I guess like 1,000. It's quite a few actually if you decide to buy them all, so maybe this one does add up a fair bit. But so that one was developed by Konami. Now let's take a look at another game developed by Furyu, the developers of Dear Days, which was the Battle Spirits video game. And so the Battle Spirits video game I think came out this year as well, and the price tag looks to be the exact same as Dear Days, and it's the only games I've seen with this price tag too. And what's this? We have a deluxe edition with all the DLCs worth over 120 bucks. Well, this looks awfully familiar too, and oh, would you look at that, the developer is Furyu. So this is kind of what makes me believe that Furyu is the one setting these price tags. Like, look at this, like digital deluxe. Like, this is a digital deluxe rare card and supply set, which is worth like 16,000 yen. Like, this is insanity. This is more than double of the game's base price. Like, how are you charging this? Like, you're basically getting like a bunch of rare cards and like character sleeves and like character play sheet. I don't even know what that's supposed to be, but the pricing is just ridiculous, and I'm assuming that it's just the pricing that they set for their games, I suppose. And then you take a look at a normal game that released this year, Xenoblade 3, and the base game price is $60, and then you can get the version with all the DLC in it for $90, because of course the DLC itself costs 30 bucks, and this is one of my favorite games of this year, and it's just, it doesn't really make sense how much they are charging for all this. Like, you can see here, the DLC is 30 bucks, and that's kind of what you would expect. And then you go on the American website for Dear Days, and it's $70. Like, this pricing just does not make sense when you look at what it is being compared to. So what can we do about this? Well, honestly, the only thing is sending support emails. I will put up an email right here that you can send your letters to. And honestly, the main things I want to know is just like, why is it this expensive? How was this decided? And why is the American pricing so expensive compared to other regions? If you're doing regional pricing, America is, you know, kind of like Europe, where you have people of all kinds of different incomes and different backgrounds and different socioeconomic statuses. Just dropping that as like a $70 game is a little bit crazy. So I would like to hear some kind of explanation and just some transparency from the company, which feels like it's been a little bit lacking lately. Now, honestly speaking, I think Furyu will not budge on this. I do feel like this is mostly on Furyu's part. Bushiroad, in general, has relatively been quite kind with pricing. I mean, they made the Overdrive Starter decks $3, or $4, which of course is not really good for stores, but they still insisted on in order to make the game very available and easy to get into at the start. And even now, like, the Chronojet deck set is a $50 investment for one of the best decks in the meta just out the box. So it's not like Bushiroad actively is trying to milk money out of you all the time, unless we're taking Zero an example, which is like, if you look at Zero and now Dear Days, it does seem like the online department is a little bit more money hungry. But the thing is, even if Furyu doesn't budge, this topic has been going on quite a bit in the Japanese community too, because there's just never been a game that's more expensive, where the DLC is more expensive than the base game itself, even if it's by 100 yen. But this just kind of seems out of character, and it just feels like a wasted opportunity when a lot of us were hoping this would grow the community a lot more. But the TLDR for me, you know, I've been kind of airing my thoughts in this video. TLDR for me is that I'm still buying the game, and I'm still going to be making a lot of content on it because I've been very excited. Like, to me, this game meant so much because it's finally the first English game for Vanguard, right? That is not Vanguard 0 or Cardfight Online, which of course didn't even come out. I really want the game to do well, but I hope it goes on sale quickly so that people can actually get into it easier. Same goes for the DLC, because that just doesn't make sense, and you honestly should not be buying it until at least February. I feel like Bushiroad is just wasting an opportunity to really grow the game a lot and just grow the franchise a lot with this pricing. I'm still very excited about the game, and I'm thankful that it's coming out, but it just feels a little bit bittersweet. So I'm still going to be putting out a lot of content. If you are skeptical about picking up the game, feel free to tune into any of my streams on twitch.tv/DifferentFight, and I'm also going to be uploading a full playthrough of the main story on the channel, so you'll get bombarded by videos over the rest of this week basically, and I'll be doing a lot of like ranked fight content and all that kind of stuff, because I'm sure there'll still be enough players to actually match against to actually go through the rank ladder. It's just a bit of a shame because I don't know how much new players we're going to get when there's just so many things that are preventing this game from doing well right now. But anyway, that's basically it. Those are my thoughts. I still want the game to succeed, but I think Bushiroad has to kind of rethink their priorities on what they even want with this game, and calling it like the ultimate digital experience for the game. I mean, I don't know, CFA is looking a little bit more like the ultimate digital experience for the game right now, to be honest. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think about the pricing. Are you going to be picking up the game? And if so, which of the platforms are you planning to pick it up on? And hopefully I see you on the ranked ladder, because I'm excited to play the game. I will be doing a midnight stream for the game as well on the night that it comes out. I'm going to be just basically streaming it until I get too tired. And I think it's going to be still a very exciting time, and I'm still very happy about the fact this game is coming out, and even like the demo already got me super hyped up for it. So this might sound kind of off considering I've just been complaining this entire video, but I think talking about the pricing is very important, but also making it known that I am excited for the game is also very important to me, at least. But anyway, enough killing time and talking about the pricing. The game is about to come out very soon, and you can look forward to a lot of content on this channel about it. And of course, if you are having concerns about the pricing of the game, make sure to let them know on the Bushiroad support email as well. But anyway, if you liked the video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.